Well, a significant incident that has unfolded in the English Channel this morning, the second rescue really in the last couple of days out in the Channel, and it appears from the information that we have received that this was, as far as the emergency services dealing with it, declared a major incident. They had the Dover lifeboat and several French patrol vessels involved in this. Now, the location, we're told, was some 5 miles from Sangatte, which is not too far from Calais. For some reason, those casualties, though, were brought to Dover harbour rather than the French side. That may have just been an issue in terms of the preparedness of the emergency services to deal with those who were taken off. But our producer down in Kent, who was filming all of this unfolding about 5 a.m. this morning, said that he saw, and indeed you can see from the video that we've obtained at GBNews from him, that several people were taken off the lifeboat in stretchers. Other people were taken off, covered in blankets, walking off, described potentially as walking wounded. There was at least half a dozen ambulances and Coast Guard vessels that have been stationed at Dover Harbour, at the Western Jetfoil, which is where these Border Force boats and lifeboats come into with the migrants that are picked up in the Channel. As I say, this is different. This is not just what normally happens on a daily basis, which is these small boats come across, they're spotted in the water, and then a border force or a lifeboat attends that scene and transfers the people on board. We understand that there were multiple people in the water, as happened on Thursday again when a boat was, it seems, inundated with water and people ended up in the sea there. Multiple people in the sea rescued by those French vessels and by the Dover lifeboat. And it looks like there was about 60 or so on board the lifeboat when it came into the Western Jetfoil in Dover, which is an indication of just how full this boat must have been.
Mark, you and I both know, having seen those craft up close, they are often improvised, flimsy, unseaworthy, death traps really waiting to happen. We can only hope there's been no serious casualties or loss of life here. But one technical question for you, Mark. If this incident happened 5 miles off the French coast, why were people brought back to Dover?
Well, this is one of the questions we'll need answered in the hours ahead. It's a bit of a puzzle. Normally, if you are involved in an incident, unless it's right on the kind of the halfway point between France and the UK, then it's wherever they can get someone to as quickly as possible. That could be on the French or the UK side. But this was, we're told from our Kent producer, well inside French waters, about 5 miles, he reckons, off Sangatte, which is, as I say, not too far from Calais. But it might be just due to the preparedness of the emergency services mustering to determine which was actually going to be the quickest point to get them to. If we were able, on the UK side, to get emergency services and ambulances to Dover Harbour to be waiting for those boats to come across, it might have been deemed that was just the quickest, more expedient way of doing it. But regardless, what we have is an incident in which we think around about 5 a.m. this morning, somehow this boat was inundated with water. It could have been a wave because we're told that conditions were pretty horrific out in the Channel first thing this morning, with winds blowing at about 20 miles an hour from the southwest, which of course whips up those waves. I mean, it might not be too difficult for larger container ships that plough up and down the Channel all of the time, but when you're talking about a flimsy inflatable, they can be inundated fairly quickly. And if it's not the weather that whips up the waves and inundates these boats. It can be the passing wake from one of these big container ships that does it. We don't know really the cause of the incident, except to say that there was definitely an incident with people in the water and these multiple boats responding to that. They pulled them from the water. We're not told at this stage of any fatalities, but clearly there are those who were deemed to have been injured that were stretchered off and now taken to hospitals in the Kent area, with about half a dozen or so ambulance and paramedic vehicles waiting for them on the quayside at Dover Harbour.